Hi, I'm Michelle Fondin, and you should give me your rose.
No, I'm Mathieu Fondin, and you should give me a rose.
This is On a Cloud, a mother and son bachelor podcast, and welcome to episode 6 of our podcast and episode 4 of season 14, Becca's season.
Becca's season, yeah, and this is a pretty Becca-centric episode, namely a lot of Becca crying and being upset, which is how the Bachelor franchise seems to like her the most.
Yes, most definitely. Kind of in a little pensive mode, but also kind of a sulky mode that happens kind of throughout the episode.
Right. But that's not where we start with the episode. We start where we left off last time, which is with a murder most foul.
Yes.
No, David fell off his bed, and we mentioned that there was this little pan up last season where they were like, his face looks so bad. It looks awful. He looks mutilated.
Yeah,
He'll
we thought he
never
was going to look like
again.
Quasimodo or something.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh. But anyways, so I predicted last season, it's not going to be that bad. He comes on, the same thing happens. I think Jordan makes some silly similes.
But before he comes on, they're in the midst of the cocktail party. Because remember, we did not get a rose ceremony last week.
No, we did not, no.
So it really opens up with the cocktail party and various guys. I think it starts with Blake.
Oh, yes.
Blake and Becca are talking about, they're really in the dark. It's really strange. Like, they have the pan on the camera and they're sitting in the dark.
But they're talking about kids.
They're talking about kids, and Blake asks Becca how many kids she wants, and she says 3, and he says 3 to 5, and Becca, who has her head on his shoulder, immediately perks up.
5?
She's like, 5? That's a lot of kids. 5?
Her vagina's spidey sense just went into overdrive, like, 5 kids? Yeah.
Yeah, she was like,
yeah, I know. I have some friends that want 5 kids, and I kind of have Becca's reaction, which is like, okay.
Yeah. And then she pulls aside Jordan, again, is getting all the cameo shots where he's just talking about David nonstop. When Becca sees him, she pulls him over to the couch, or Jordan goes over.
So a little backstory on this. So Mom and I actually watched the rest of the episode before the first 10 minutes because our DVR skipped the first 10 minutes.
And we have no idea why.
Yeah, we have no idea why. So we saw Jordan don Becca's little gift later in the episode, and then we realized
we just thought he was just a stripper or something. Because in the first, in the first
no,
cocktail
not
party, he was walking around like half naked, right?
He is a man that is proud of his body.
Yes.
Because the body was picked by seasoned producers of The Bachelor to come on.
Some good talent scouts.
But anyways.
Most definitely.
So what does she give him?
She gives him a pair of golden underwear, and she calls him Captain Underpants.
Calling them underwear is strong. They're like little
like
booty
spandex.
shorts.
Yeah, they're like spandex booty shorts.
Yeah. They're extremely good.
He's gonna look like a golden superhero.
They're so loud and reflective. It's insane.
They are literally shiny like the sun. And she said, I found these and thought of you, which I believe it was a producer that just pulled them out of wardrobe somewhere.
Oh, yeah. No, Bachelors
and gave them to Becca to give to Jordan.
The Bachelors will never give gifts to contestants as far as maybe
typically remember how Rachel bought the watch for Brian, but that was at a watch shop. That was on a date.
Okay, A, that's a watch shop. B, Brian was a front runner.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be crazy if I went up to like Susan Nobody and I was like, hey, here, have this thoughtful gift.
Here's a bra and underwear, even though you're not
because
going
I know
to
you love getting
suites.
naked in front of me. Which is basically, and then he brags afterwards about how he's like, oh, she loves my crotch so much she wants to give it clothing. It's weird. But then
it gives him fuel for the fire, and he's like, yeah, there you go, David, I'm the front runner here. Like he
I have the shiniest balls, and that means I'm the winner boy. Speaking of David, coincidentally, he happens to pull up to Bachelor Mansion right as she's giving him the shorts.
Exactly. That's when, he's convinced that David's never coming back, and he's like, I'm the winner of this whole season. And then David comes in, And he's like, well, then Jordan's talking about how he looks, but he just basically said, I don't know, he looks like a Picasso painting.
Yeah, he's missing all the bones in his face. His eyes on his chest and his mouth is on his neck. And you look at him, he has a black eye. He's fine.
Yeah, he has a black eye and his nose has a little scratch on it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Like, don't get me wrong, it looks kind of painful, but it doesn't look like that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like he'll be better in a month or so.
And it's really funny how Becca reacts, and it's like they all get kind of like this when one of the contestants gets injured, but she's looking at him like he's a hero. She's like, "Oh, you're back!
No, that happens
you're
though. They
such
get
a hero.
They get a hero edit.
I know.
Listen, he's not used to sleeping on bunk beds. He toughed it through for Becca, except he really totally didn't tough it out for Becca, because he says this line later on of like, "I'm here for Becca. The only thing I'm here for is Becca." And maybe to rub it in Jordan's face a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like,
which tells you,
well,
like, no.
But like that backpedal sounds like the honest thing.
Right.
Because you're so not here for Becca. You've exchanged 2 words with Becca, yet you're still on the show because of your hero cut.
Yeah, and so Becca ends up giving David a rose just because she's like, you need to rest. You can't stand up at the rose ceremony.
Pity roses are not rare. It's just the fact that he's...
And, and the thing is, it's not even a real thing, meaning that I really believe that Becca doesn't really have feelings for him.
No, absolutely not.
Like, it just seems like it's all fake, but of course
I don't have feelings for him.
We need 2 people for that next week's 2-on-1 with Jordan.
Which we are getting, 100%.
Which we predicted. We predicted that there would be a 2-on-1 with Jordan and David.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more at the promo in the end of the episode. But we actually open on a rose ceremony since we didn't get one last week.
Yeah, exactly. And we get 2 rose ceremonies this week. In this week's ceremony, let's see. So David already has a rose because, of course, he's resting. And that's when I actually thought David didn't get a rose because we, of course, watched the show after the first 10 minutes.
Yes.
So when David showed up at one of the group dates, I think I was really shocked. I was like, oh, he's here.
We were a little confused. But
yeah, we were a little confused.
I think I called what happened. I was saying, oh, she must have given him a rose just for...
Yeah, just because he got injured.
Yep.
We had 18 guys at the beginning of this episode, and then through the rose ceremony, we're down to 15. Some of the guys that got roses were Jason. So Jason's Dracula that we talked about last week, right?
Yeah.
We just call him Dracula because of his hair.
Yeah.
He's not like Count Dracula. He's a nice guy.
No, he's a nice guy, but I forget him constantly.
Yeah.
There are some boys that are very notable to me throughout the season because boys, as much as I said it during the limo exits, when guys have gimmicks, they're gimmicks, but at the same time, their names are all so white and samey that whenever mom can be like, oh, that's Blake, he's the animal man. Is Blake the animal man?
Yes, Blake is the animal man.
That's Blake, he's the animal man.
And it's not like he's an animal, it's that he has farm animals.
Right, he came on
He showed up with 2 farm animals.
He can't complain about being called the animal man when he brought Bradley the horse, Becca's second husband, on.
And Wills is the one who wears the pretty clothes, but I mean, at first when I saw Wills, I thought he was gay.
Really?
Yeah. Just because he was in these, like, flowery vests and things like that.
He has a flamboyant fashion sense, but, I mean, look at friggin' Jordan. The only thing he talks about is how other boys dress. I think this is a particularly vain season of The Bachelorette.
Yeah. And so Wills does get a rose. And then this weird thing is Nick, who we have not seen,
is he
shows up in a tracksuit to the rose ceremony. And then he starts talking about his true nature.
Hold on. Yes. He is wearing...
It's like
a tracksuit.
Vinny. It's like, hey, my name is Vinny.
He's wearing a tracksuit.
I come from New York. I can't even do a New York accent.
That is not even close.
But like,
New York accent.
Like, I imagine this guy, like the way he showed up with like golden chains.
Okay, he shows up with a cross necklace and a tracksuit unzipped all the way to
down.
His navel with nothing underneath.
And his hair is slicked back.
His hair is also slicked back. He looks insane. He looks like a mobster.
He looks like a mobster.
But
he's an attorney. It says attorney. Yeah. I'm like, what?
So I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh, that's a very weird fashion choice. The rest of the boys are kind of wearing suits. It's pretty much the standard for Batch. But I guess I won't comment on it, and I hope he won't either.
I just don't know why he got that cameo and saying, I have to show my true self. What does that mean? What does that mean? that he shows up to court in tracksuits?
There's this one manga I read where there's a character that's like, tracksuits are the truest form of fashion, and he takes on this like apprentice at one point and he gives her a tracksuit first thing because he's like, the luxury. That's what he sounds like. The fact that I can
really
read...
weird. I was like, they didn't even promote this as a thing.
They didn't.
He just shows up and he says, I hope Becca accepts me for
I hope
who I
Becca
am.
accepts me for my true self in the tracksuit.
In a tracksuit?
I was born in this tracksuit. I'll die in this tracksuit.
It was so out of left field.
It was the highlight of the entire rose ceremony.
It was really funny because I was like, where did that come from?
Like, The Bachelor is a show that wears its heart on its sleeve so much that when it spews BS, you can kind of see it and it feels very fake. But sometimes it has these moments of genuine madness where all I can do is just stare at it and wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways.
So Colton and Garrett already had roses, I believe, from the last dates. Blake did too. I think Blake had a date last season. So we got Lincoln, Leo, John, who we didn't know who John was until this episode. We'll talk about John later. Connor, Jordan, and Jean Blanc all got roses. It was really non-eventful. 15 guys left. Garrett gets the one-on-one date. And I don't even remember them promoting Garrett as getting the one-on-one date. It was just sort of like, I have a one-on-one date with Garrett today.
Well, maybe they're trying to subvert expectations because Garrett won.
You know, and I think that there's this strange underlying understanding that seems to happen between Garrett and Becca.
Yeah.
Did you find that? Like when
Well, I think it happens...
Every time they talk, I kind of feel like...
I think that happens to a lot of frontrunners where, like, they talk and they're like, so... I'm staying until the end of the friggin' season, right? Yeah. And she's like, let's just have fun here.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't say this on camera.
Well, and I think that Becca, if she's smart like Rachel was, isn't going to take them on many more dates or at least any more one-on-ones until the end of the season.
Toward the end.
You can tell they both know they have a connection.
Right.
And you can see it too.
So Garrett got the first impression rose.
Yes.
He's your pick.
He's my pick.
They went on the one-on-one date, and the first thing they did was they go into this, like, thrift shop or this, I don't know, it might have been, like, a travel shop, and they're in Utah by now? They go to Utah.
Yes, they're in Utah.
They go to Utah, and they go into this, like, small town, maybe it's a gift shop and not a thrift shop, but they're trying on these funny clothes.
Yeah.
So they try on, like, these fuzzy hats, and then...
It's cute. She says he's very goofy.
Yeah, kind of these oversized T-shirts.
His character traits.
And they're just, like, being total goofballs and looking like they're having the time of their lives.
No, they do look it's interesting when you can... There's not a lot of contestants that The Batch really clicks with on this show. So when you can see two contestants and you be like, oh, I can see them having fun in Disney World with their kids.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's someone that is going to make it to Fantasy Suites at the very least, if not Final Two.
Absolutely. It's really kind of neat. I don't know. I like their chemistry together. I really think that they seem to have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, so after the thrift shop, they go on a ski lift.
Yeah, and they meet two bobsledists. Bobsledders.
And they're like Olympic winners,
Olympic winners, yes, who apparently...
The two females.
Yeah, two women who got together afterwards and got married. I believe they have kids now. Yeah. So then they teach Becca and... Garrett. I'm hopeless. How to bobsled. It looks scary.
Yeah.
She's getting.
I would just be scared going up the ski lift. Hello.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's something about ski lifts. The fact that, like, your feet are dangling down and you can look down thousands of feet and you're held by a single bar.
Yeah, man. I feel like they're deceptive.
You know what I'm afraid of in that scenario? I'm afraid of slipping under the bar.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, my heart just jumped when I said that because seriously...
I did not know you were afraid of heights.
I'm not afraid of heights, I'm afraid of ski lifts.
Okay, that's interesting because,
like, I'm afraid of slipping under the bar.
All right.
It's a thin bar!
Yeah, no, let's never go skiing. It's... Anyways.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, so the thing is that Becca, before she gets into the bobsled, starts kind of getting... cold feet. Unsurprisingly, they're on an icy mountain. But she says, she's like, oh, I might pee a little bit. They said it's going to be...
Is that what she said?
You were gone. You were in the kitchen at this point. Oh. But she was like, they said it's going to be like 50 G's. I don't know what G's are. It was very good. So then, what is a G? Do you not know? Oh, it's
is it G-force?
Gravitational
Force?
Gravitational
Okay.
force. So it's like that stomach droppy feeling on roller
Right.
coasters. That's,
okay, got it.
That's a low amount of G's. So like, I hate those things. I would immediately, my soul would leave my body and go somewhere warm. So while they're on the bobsled, Becca's like, so this bobsled is kind of like the journey we're on. Every time they say the word journey on The Bachelorette, my brain and heart die a little. I hate it so much. Every time you watch it and you hear the word journey, I'm cringing however many miles away I am from you. Just keep that in mind.
She's like, she's smitten. You can tell. Like,
oh yeah.
Every time the camera pans to her, she's just like, I really like Garrett.
She does. She really does.
I really like him. I can see myself with him at the end of this.
Then they have a little finger snack time together.
Yeah, it's really weird. Normally they get like a romantic dinner setting, and they didn't. They got like an hors d'oeuvre setting.
Well, it doesn't freaking matter anyways.
They're not eating anyways. Yeah. So
it's basically what plastic fruit garnish do you want in front of you while you talk.
Yeah, this is where they have a really, really serious conversation.
Yeah, they do.
Oh.
Okay.
This is where I got scared for Garrett.
Yeah, I did a little bit as well.
Scared for Garrett.
He pulls through. But at the same time, I think that these talks are really interesting because I do feel like as though if you make yourself vulnerable to the batch during this moment,
you gain points.
You do, or at least like you gain a lot of intimacy with them, and that counts a lot for later on because that's kind of what Dean did.
Yes. Dean did do that.
During Rachel's season.
So that's during Rachel's season. Dean is such a sweetie.
It did bite Dean in the butt, though.
It did bite him in the butt, but also he's very...
date with him later.
Like, I love Dean, and here's the thing is, like, I didn't only see him on Rachel's season as I saw him on Bachelor.
He was on BIP, right?
He was on BIP, and he made some really big mistakes on BIP that made me lower my opinion of him because I really liked him during Rachel's season.
Yeah.
But he didn't act very mature during BIP, and that's what kind of made me disappointed in him. But he's really young. But he was super vulnerable to Rachel during the dinner, during the one-on-one date.
Becca from not Nick's season. What's his name? I forgot his name. Ari's season. Yeah, I mean, so is she. But at the same time, I do feel like it's kind of a setting that encourages people to make mistakes on
BIP. I think so.
For the layman in the audience is Bachelor in Paradise. Which we talked about in our first episode.
Yeah. Garrett was married before, and this is what made Becca kind of like take a step back emotionally, I think, for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about falling in love, and then he kind of like led up to it. He's like, well, we were dating, and we were in love, and then we got engaged, and then the divorce happened after a few, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
He skipped over the whole marriage part?
Okay, especially because the thing is that, like, if a character has a notable personal history, they will usually reveal it during like the film things at the beginning of the first episode. Right, so
just like Chelsea that had the kid.
Exactly, I'm thinking of Chelsea.
She was like in one of the first episodes of The Bachelor. She said, "I need to tell Ari that I need to tell Ari that I have a kid." I need to tell Ari that I have a kid, and that was like what was on her mind the first thing. Garrett's had many conversations with Becca.
Yeah. Well, even Kenny also, his kid was his kind of gimmick.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like there's another, who's the man on this season? The man that has the niece with cystic fibrosis.
That's Colton.
Yeah, not to imply that she's a gimmick or to make light of his nonprofit, because I think it was just a really important part of his life. Right, it's an important part of his life, and it's a part he introduces straight up. So to hear Garrett, this front runner, suddenly be like, I was married before, it was a shock to me too, to be honest. It was a little bit of a shock, and that's why I thought, like, not that he was a goner, I didn't think that. I just thought that she would think less of him just because he waited so long into the season to actually tell her. Yeah, man.
He tells her, and she does take a step back, but she said she's afraid that he might not be ready to get down on one knee at the end of this season because she's like, are you over it? Like, are you over that marriage? Are you ready to take the next step?
Yeah, and Garrett talks a little bit about why they broke up. He said that there was a lot of emotional manipulation.
Emotionally abusive, and, he tried his best. He tried really hard to make the relationship work, and it just didn't work out.
Right, yeah.
Then she, kisses him, and she says she, respects him for telling her everything.
Yeah, and Garrett says that he would be willing to commit by the end of the season. He's
because we thought it was another Peter situation. We got a little scared.
Oh my gosh, it'd be miserable.
So Peter was on Rachel's season, and Peter was the one who wigged out before the
At
engagement.
The last second.
Yeah, literally the last second.
Yeah, he said, I I'm not ready to get married. And she said, well, I am. And he said, well, see ya. And then he bailed.
Yeah, it was just really, it was bad. So they go into a concert with this guy called Granger Smith. If you guys know Granger Smith, yay, we had no idea who he was. I guess he's a country western singer.
He sounds like a character from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it makes sense that he's a country singer.
They seem to know who he was, or at least she did. I don't know if he
did.
No,
she's like, Granger Smith is on stage, and I am so in love. Well, she didn't say in love, because you're not allowed to.
But they dance, and, people are cheering, and they have a good time, and they're smooching, and they just seem really happy, and Becca's, like, on cloud 9. Yeah. Literally. So it's really good. So meanwhile, back at the house, it's really weird. They flash to this conversation between the boys. Oh my god,
this sucked. This is the worst.
Okay, this is why I'm not really excited about a lot of the guys on this show, because you get these really stupid things that are coming up. So, like, Lincoln's talking about how he believes the world is flat.
Okay, I explained this to you last night, but this is actually an online thing. There's like an organization of people called Flat Earthers who are deniers of the fact that the Earth is round.
Why? Is it just because?
To be contrarian,
it's just
probably.
Because.
I think like the thing is that a lot of people just find an organization they want to identify with and will often lump themselves in with it just to feel like they belong to something.
And maybe just so they can argue
just
with
so
people.
They can argue. Yeah,
it's so dumb.
But anyways, so he starts, so this
is another reason what makes me think that, like, Lincoln is not going to last.
No, he's a joke character now. He's comic relief.
So ridiculous.
I still... No, there's no way. There's not a snowball's chance. But anyways, so he spends 5 to 10 minutes talking about how, like, when you're in a plane and you look down, it's all flat. Why is that? And it's like, well, because it's really big. It's a big planet. Oh my
Not to
God.
mention that, like, some of the other guys were bringing up, like, well, what about people that have sailed around the world?
And he's like, well, things go far, and we don't really know how everything works. And it's like,
and then he's like, how does water stay on if the planet is round?
Oh, right.
You're like,
oh my
what?
God. Okay, also,
Wasn't gravity discovered, like, a few hundred years ago?
I don't know. This is a conversation for a different time.
It's just ridiculous.
But we are not making this podcast to debate the better semantics of people who argue with well-established facts.
Yeah.
We're making this podcast to talk about silly things, like the fact that Leo is shirtless throughout this entire scene, just standing in the corner.
It's so funny. And he's
naked.
got his mic strapped to his chest. I'm like, why is he shirtless?
It's so weird.
Like, why? What is he doing?
And then he talks about it, and he's like, "Man, Lincoln's crazy." And we're both like, "Shut up, Leo! You're getting off the show."
Oh my gosh!
Like I basically said Leo's gonna be gone from the house by the end of this sentence, basically.
But he wasn't. He did get a rose.
Yeah, he's not making it to fantasy suites or hometowns.
There's no way.
I think he could be a fun guy, but
he just doesn't seem like he has much substance.
Not terribly.
Yeah. So then we get on a group date.
I could say for a lot of the boys, I feel like there haven't been many bloopers this season with the boys really getting along. I just don't feel like they like each other very much, or they're very interesting to watch.
I don't find that, like, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I'm not finding that they're really interesting people as people. Yeah. Right?
I think they're kind of confusing, interesting for, like, entertaining, which I don't think is the same thing.
Exactly. Anyways. The group date card comes, and almost every single guy except for one gets on the group date.
And that one is
Will's.
Will's
gets the next one-on-one. So meanwhile, all the men, so there are 13 men that are on this group date called the Lumberjack Dash.
Becca is saying that when she was younger, she had a lot of crushes on a lot of lumberjacks. And this is kind of the beefcake date where a lot of boys are like, look at how big and good my muscles are.
It's really kind of silly. Now, Becca is so kind of like the football date.
Yeah.
She is so into this.
She's okay. I've noticed. I think
maybe because she's from Minnesota.
Maybe
like men in Minnesota are just like football lumberjack
But
types.
She has also had a lot of sports dates or a lot of like physical exertion dates.
Yeah.
Which like I get it. It's not the weirdest thing in the world. It does happen a lot in The Bachelorette, especially. Rachel had a fair few where like they pretend to be Vikings and they did some mud wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really not unusual. But at the same time, like sometimes they go to a dog park and whatnot. But this one had like bobsledding, snowmobiling later on and lumberjacking.
Exactly.
She had the wedding competition. She had the football date. She had dodgeball. They have all been sports dates.
Yeah, it's like crazy. And then it just seems like she's looking for a manly man who
Which is great. Yeah, no,
be into sports and fishing and like outdoor type activity. And she even said that to Garrett. She said, the one thing I really, really, really like about you is that you're the outdoorsy type.
Yeah.
Do you remember she said that? She's like, you're the outdoorsy type. You like the outdoor stuff. That's exactly me.
Maybe that's just her type. That said, it still feels...
It's like crazy. They're like chopping wood and they're like chopping these humongous logs with these axes. Like these huge axes.
And
that made me so frightened because the way they were swinging those things.
Oh yeah,
and it was crazy. Reminiscent. Like you brought up that we were one 4th of July weekend when the kids were littler, and we were camping, and like Matt, you were young and you remember this. It was crazy. So we were staying at a campgrounds and they were building, like some of my cousins and like the spouses of my, cousins' kids were building a fire. So they were chopping wood, and this guy who was like 20 at the time, my cousin was showing him how to chop a log, like split a log in two, basically like what they were doing on the show.
Yep.
And instead of chopping the log, he chopped into his shin.
Yeah.
And had to be rushed to the hospital. And it was like
young.
Blood everywhere.
I was young, but I do remember this because I was explicitly staying inside the camper.
Oh my god.
Not wanting to go outside and see the wound.
It was bad. It was bad. So it was remnant. What was that?
Was it bad?
Yeah.
All right.
It was bad. Like I think he had to get like 25 stitches or something.
Yeah. So needless to say, the boys are all looking sexy this day because they're all chopping logs and getting sweaty,
and
wearing flannel shirts.
Some of the stronger ones couldn't chop through the wood.
Yeah, well,
Isn't that funny? Like Jordan, who I never thought could chop through wood. Because he's pretty boy, right?
Yeah, but he manages to split it perfectly.
And then who was one like Lincoln couldn't do it?
Blanc couldn't do it. Oh my gosh, who else?
There was another white guy who couldn't do it either. I think Chris couldn't do it. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it was kind of a silly edit because they're all just like, come on, let's do it. And of course we were getting Jordan cuts where Jordan was like, yeah, these man babies can't split a log, and it's like, all right, Jordan, whatever.
But you know what's funny is that like there's one where they have to throw the axe into a bullseye, and Becca does it right in the center. I'm like, what? Like I couldn't even hold an axe, let alone throw it into a bullseye.
That was cool.
That was
she
so
spun
cool.
It perfectly. I would be like, she pulled it back, and I was like, okay, it's gonna leave her hand, swing around, cut her face in half, and
that's what you thought would happen to you. Like you're like, if I did that, that's what would happen to me.
I did. I thought so. But then she throws it and it hits the target perfectly. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
But this whole day we've been getting cuts to a certain boy, Jordan, of course. But we're always getting cuts of Jordan.
Yeah. Is it to John?
Yes, we're
to
getting
John,
a
which
lot
is really
of cuts
weird
to
because
Jean Blanc.
to Jean Blanc.
Yeah.
Oh.
We get some cuts to John too. John's like, I love this. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I guess there are two guys. So Jean Blanc, and then John, who we haven't heard a lot from.
No.
But I think John gets a lot of cuts on this date because he's particularly good at being a lumberjack.
He is.
He's a very talented lumberjack.
Which, I don't know how well that skills will suit him in married life. Which is always why sports challenges are weird to me. Because it's like, okay, girls, climb up this McDonald's play place and we'll see how good you are in bed with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, Bachelor, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, he's being a good sport about it. By the end of the day, they have this Mulan challenge where he has to climb up the pole using rope. And then, I'm so disappointed they didn't play Be a Man.
Oh, definitely. That would have been so good.
When they reached the top, mysterious as the dark side.
Oh, man, that would have been too good.
I would have lost my
mind. Plus, it's ABC. Like, Disney owns ABC. That would have been so good.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. We got to write the producers and tell them, man.
We do. We should produce this show.
No kidding. We would be so good at it.
But anyway, so yeah, he makes it to the top. He wins this little trophy from Becca. Like I said, Jean Blanc is getting a lot of cuts.
He keeps getting, and we're not understanding why.
Because he's not doing too well or too poorly.
No, but we just don't understand why he keeps getting all of these camera shots. We're like, he keeps saying stuff like.
And I basically predicted future drama. I said that's because something's going to go down. He's going to tattle or whatever.
And it actually does.
Not in the way I thought.
Not
but
the way
it does.
I thought either, but it's so weird.
He does say at one point, though, that he's going to be Becca's John Henry, which is very funny to me.
Wait, who is John Henry?
He's this old, folklore guy. I think it might have been propaganda or something for the railroad industry.
Oh, okay.
He was this railroad worker who was going to be replaced by a machine.
Oh.
And they said, this machine can drive nails better than you. And he says, no, I can drive nails better than a machine. So he grabs 2 hammers and starts going ham. And he does it so well that he dies, but he does go faster than the machine.
He dies?
His heart explodes, I'm pretty sure, because he hammers so good. It is a crazy story.
Okay. I did not know that story.
Well, you do now.
Okay, there you go.
And so do all our listeners.
So, in the after party, Jason's the first one that pulls her aside. So, Jason has the Dracula hair.
Yeah.
And, the one thing about Jason is he seems like a perfectly nice fella.
Yeah.
But I find he's kind of the Brian of the season, meaning that,
not much substance.
Not much substance, but he's got the smooth moves and the nice kisses.
Yeah. Well, listen, he'll reveal his substance once he abducts Becca to his castle in Transylvania.
Yes.
I'm being mean now about the vampire thing. It's just a thing to remember him. But yeah, I do kind of feel like what you mean, because I do think, maybe we just think this, but I feel like I either need chemistry or a touchstone from the boys to recognize
recognize who they are.
Yeah.
And so, she's totally into the chemistry with him, with Jason.
Oh, she is.
But there's no substance.
Mm-hmm.
There's no conversation.
Well, we'll see this later on Will's date. Will's, I didn't think would be that much of a contender, but he has great conversations with Becca.
Really good conversations.
He is so honest to the point where,
like I said, we'll talk about this in his date, but I just said, he's such a good friend.
Yeah.
He seems like a really good friend. Then Colton grabs her, and they just smooch a bunch. I don't remember anything significant in that conversation.
Yeah, nor do I.
Then she sits on the couch with Jordan, and this is where Jordan whips off his pants.
Oh, yes.
And he's parading in front of her with his golden underwear.
He is.
And literally, he's shaking his booty in front of her or something. And she hides her face.
Yeah, he's doing some booty tooches.
Yeah. She hides her face she's so embarrassed.
Yeah. Now, this, I think, is the reason why Jordan is a good villain. Because I usually hate villains on this show because they take up too much screen time.
Funny.
He's funny, and he's not offensive to any of their boys in the house or really particularly mean. He's just this weird animated series Batman Joker character where he's yeah, I'm gonna come steal your girl. Here's my butt. Look at my bare butts. It's very funny to me.
He's just so funny. I like him a lot. I can't imagine what it would be like to talk to Jordan in real life.
Well,
I wonder if he'd be the same, or he's just
he's a plant. Of
he's
course
just got
he is.
air in between his ears.
No, I have yet to meet someone that ditzy, maybe.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay,
I don't know.
maybe you're right. But anyways, then something weird happens.
Yes, so weird that I don't even know what happened.
No. I'm not talking about that yet.
Okay.
We'll get to that real quick. But first of all, I feel like the show always has power vacuums to fill.
Yeah.
Where whenever...
What do you mean power vacuums?
Okay, well, David has been gone this past week.
Yeah.
So to fill the vacuum of the White Knight, Colton pulls aside Jordan and says, "Listen, you clown."
He keeps calling him a clown.
Yeah.
It's I don't like all this clowning around. This is a serious show, don't you know?
Yeah. This is my love show with my wife in there. And then he's "You're around in your sparkly panties."
It just kills me that he calls the show serious.
Yeah, because it's so not. We just talked about the Earth being flat for the past 10 minutes.
He's there's no room for clowns here.
Yeah, and then he says, okay, now here's the thing. This is the part of the show where I was actually kind of if he said what I think he said, that's really not cool. Because he calls Jordan something that the show bleeps out, and then Jordan immediately looks offended and says, "Did you just call me a burp?"
And I'm what did he bleep?
It's either an a-hole or the F word and not the F word that people usually mean. Which is...
Really?
I don't know.
That's what I interpreted it as,
which is crazy not cool of Colton if that's the case.
Yeah.
But if it was just a-hole, that's fine. Whatever. Jordan, you're overreacting. Get over it.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the thing is that even to Colton, like, Jordan was totally inoffensive. It's like, Jordan didn't do anything directly to anybody.
Like, why do you, like, maybe...
Like, a lot of the Bachelor contestants and Bachelorette contestants, they'll do little gimmicky things in front of the Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Yeah.
Like, constantly. It's not even...
And a lot of them are really dumb and kind of lewd,
It's like,
too.
even showing up in a chicken suit, that's the same thing as, like, parading around in underwear. Like, honestly, what's the freaking difference?
Yeah. Now, like, maybe, they always say they're doing it to protect the Batch and out of, like, respect for them.
Yeah.
Almost never the case. It is almost always out of this weird alpha male sense of, like, hey, that's my girl and you're pushing in on her.
And not to mention that, like Matt and I mentioned last week in last week's episode, is that as soon as someone speaks up to protect, quote unquote, the candidate, like the Bachelor, Bachelorette, once they step up to say something, they're usually a goner.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Because the front runners are not going to throw a hissy fit.
No, okay.
They never throw hissy fits.
Ari season. Who went to hometowns? Tia, hands were clean. Kendall, hands were clean. Lauren B, boring but hands were clean.
Exactly.
Becca, hands were clean.
Exactly.
Never involved themselves with Bibiana or Crystal or Chelsea at all.
No drama. Like, for the final front runners.
If you want to win, just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why this fired Colton up so much, but we don't see him in any of the promos, and he's not on the 2-on-1 with Jordan.
And it's really weird because I think, like, once David is gone, Colton is going to be the next villain.
Probably.
Against Jordan, who, hello, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Hold on.
I don't know what's happening.
You're assuming that David's going to get kicked out on the 2-on-1.
I think he will.
I think he will too.
I think Jordan's staying. I'm sorry. I like Jordan way too much, and I think Jordan would be a good audience pick.
I think Becca likes Jordan too. The thing is that I don't think Becca cares about David at all.
Honestly, Becca's not going to pick Jordan to be her husband.
No, but she's going to pick him to stay on longer.
No substance there, but to stay on in the house, like, yeah.
No, whatever Colton said, it seemed to really affect Jordan weirdly because he stormed back inside the house, which is one of the few times I've seen him that mad. Anyways, so while this is all going on, do we get a tattle? I don't think we do.
We don't get a tattle this time, but the problem is that now we get all these cameos to Jean Blanc, who says, like, I have a special gift for her. I really like her. I'm here for Becca. I need to show her how serious I am. And it's just, like, it's going on and on, like, way too long that we're getting, like, super confused. It's a weird edit.
So
why is this happening?
I think part of I think they make all the boys talk this much, and they edit it so that the boys that are going to be involved later on get the biggest cuts.
Yeah.
But he was basically saying how he didn't feel very confident in the date, and he thinks this gift will redeem him.
Yeah.
So then he gets time with Becca.
And it's really bizarre. So first he gives her perfume, right?
Yeah.
So he's the perfume guy. He likes all these men's colognes, and he collects them. He's a collector.
He gives her a perfume called Becca.
But it's called Becca something, right? I don't know.
I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, it was like...
Yeah, it's like a French fragrance.
But at this point, which is weird, is that Becca already seems a little uncomfortable with him sitting on the couch, and we don't really know why. Did you feel that? Did you feel that she didn't feel 100% open and comfortable? Yeah.
It was... Okay, I'll talk about this in a second, but basically he gives her the fragrance, and then he's like, well, I want a reward for the fragrance, and then he leans in as if to whisper something in her ear, then transitions into a kiss. Now, this, kind of like everything else he does, and I mentioned this last episode, feels oddly scripted, where, like, it feels like he's practiced it in his head 80 times, and then when he does it, it just doesn't work out like he feels like it would, because she's like, oh, I thought you were going to ask for a one-on-one. He's like, no, everyone wants a one-on-one. I just wanted a kiss for it. And she's like, okay. And then she talks to the camera and she's like, I hate Jean Blanc. And it's like...
She doesn't say that.
Okay.
She doesn't say that, but she just says, I am very uncomfortable right now.
Basically.
I don't know what that was. And so we're like left there going, what did he say to her?
Well, no, I don't think he said anything in her ear. I think it's more just like, she just so did not pick up what he was putting down.
But he just said, like, I don't know. He said something like, I'm falling so hard for you.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, we're not at that point in our relationship yet.
Yeah, she says, I'm not feeling this at all. And I I get this a lot when there are conversations on The Bachelor, Bachelorette, where it feels like I've picked up a book and I've opened it to the halfway point and I just don't know the backstory at all.
Yeah, you have no idea what's happening.
And we've talked about this before on the show because it's, I think, one of the funniest and weirdest moments on The Bachelorette, but it was Rachel's season when she's talking to Matt and she's sending Matt off while crying and saying, Matt, I see so much of myself in you.
And we were like, what?
Matt, by the way, had never spoken to her like once on camera.
And she's in front of the audience, so we don't know.
And she's like, I feel like you're me, Matt. I hate doing this to you. And it's like,
we're like,
who's he?
Matt? We've never seen him.
Yeah, anyways.
It's very strange. So we felt this way with Colton last week, where we felt like there was a connection that we just didn't see on camera.
Yeah.
And then this week with the Jean Blanc thing, how uncomfortable she felt.
It feels like that too.
It felt like there was some other conversation that was going on prior to what he said to her.
Like they have 10 years of history that we're just not seeing.
Or,
weirdly.
I mean, it's probably not 10 years of history, but maybe they had a conversation on the couch that lasted a lot longer.
Yeah. Or like, during one of their prior dates or sometime at the house or something, he pulled her aside and talked to her.
Like he mentioned something to her and she was feeling something was off.
Yeah. But like and this is what our podcast is actually named after, because at one point Mom said to me, well, you got to remember with the producers and all that, everything we're seeing is from on a cloud.
Yes, definitely.
And so then I said that would be a great name for the podcast.
Definitely.
History was made. But
so Becca says, I don't see myself in the same position that you are, Jean Blanc. I'm really sorry, but I think you need to go. And,
no, well, first he actually comes back to her when she's with another boy and steals her away.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
So another boy steals her, then he steals her back, but then he says to her, he's like, well, what's wrong? I felt like we did not get to finish our conversation. And she said, well, I'm not in the same position that you're in. I feel like we're not on the same page. But then he says, well, that's not what you wanted to hear, or something like that. He says something
and then
to
she
the
said,
effect
I feel like you're just saying things because that's where my position with other boys in the house are.
Right.
Where she's making progress with them and he's trying to run to catch up.
And so she just felt it was disingenuous.
And it kind of is, as it's
was
revealed.
Disingenuous,
because she says,
but it was so freaking awkward.
She says, you're cut, and then he says, okay, and she says, I'll walk you out. And then they start talking at the entryway.
Well, he basically wouldn't let her go. And she was feeling so uncomfortable.
So they talk at the entryway, and she says, did you mean what you said back there, or were you just saying it to win the show?
Right.
And he says, I said it because I thought you wanted me to say it. And she says, okay.
It was just such a disaster. Now, here's where I didn't understand, and this is, again, feeling like you're reading a book halfway through that you haven't read the first half, is that when she gets him into the limo, she comes back in the house, and she sits down with the boys, and she's basically like, cocktail party, canceled. Rose ceremony, canceled. I'm going home. Goodbye.
Show's canceled.
She was so mad.
Yeah, she was
so she's like, if anybody else is not here for the right reasons, if they're not going to be honest with me, if you're not going to be upfront, if you're going to lie to me,
I will be in my room. Send Chris Harrison with tissues and a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, and it was just bad. We're like, what?
So I've watched a couple seasons of the show now, and I've listened to more of it with Rose Buddies. I don't think she's a contestant has ever not given out a rose during a group date, to my memory. But she does not give out a rose for this group date.
Yeah, and everyone's like so mad, but it was more like we didn't understand why she was so freaking angry. That was one contestant.
It was one contestant, but I also kind of get it where we mentioned earlier that this whole show is kind of a sport. At the same time, I don't think you can play it like you can play a sport because it's also a social sport where you win by being a charismatic and genuine person.
And emotionally intelligent. I think there's a lot that has to do with emotional intelligence.
Of just being able to sense how someone else feels and being able to play your cards right.
Because you can't manipulate people into feeling, nor can you manipulate people into thinking you're feeling one thing when you're really not.
Yes, and Jean Blanc was trying to play it like a game, but was very, very bad at the game. Yes. Where every time he was on screen, I was basically like, okay, that was not real.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of liked him in the beginning of the season.
I did, and I still liked
him. But this time, I think he was pushing it way too much and being really pushy.
Yeah.
And that was like, that would make anybody feel uncomfortable.
I think he just got nervous because he was saying, you know, I don't think we're quite there yet. And I think that at this point, he probably realized if she's going to cut someone, I'm going to be on that list.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? Eric in Rachel's season as well had this little moment of angst.
Yeah, he had this like
where
identity
he was just
crisis.
like, yeah, he was just like, I don't know, she's not going to like me. Does she like me? I'm not getting enough time with her. I don't get it. And the difference between Eric and Rachel is that when Eric talked about his vulnerability with Rachel, about how he was feeling, and like, I feel like I'm not catching up to the other guys.
Yeah.
She congratulated him for his honesty.
Yeah, no, like they had this really, really nice moment. And then she basically said, I get that. I get that it's a difficult show. I was on the show too. I feel like you're putting your heart out to me and you're still determined to make a connection and win this.
So let's keep on with the honesty, and I understand.
And Eric ended up going to Fantasy Suites.
Yeah,
he was the third guy. And also, like, I really wanted him to be the next Bachelor because afterwards he took on this whole new personality and he was great. I loved Eric.
Yeah. So I think that, like, had Jean Blanc said, like, I feel vulnerable, I feel like I'm not on par with the other guys, I feel like we haven't had a lot of time, he probably would have stayed on instead of getting all awkward on her.
Probably.
Yeah. So now...
we're going to take a little break from... we're still going to talk about the show. We're going to take a break from talking about the show. I actually have ideas that I wrote up a while ago for little segments we could do to kind of set this podcast apart from the crowd and talk about how we feel about certain things and kind of the franchise as a whole.
Right.
Our segment for this episode is going to be Pick Your Hubby. We're going to pick one of the boys, whichever... You know that's my favorite joke from that show. So we're gonna pick a boy from the season that we would want to pick as our finalist this early in the season.
Not together. We're going to actually pick our own.
We're not going to share him. We're not going to tear him in half. Like, what Bible story is that? Where it's like,
what?
I will cut the baby in half. Wisdom of Solomon.
Really?
I will cut the baby in half, and whoever wants each half of the baby can have it. And then the mom raised her hand and was like, please don't cut the baby in half. You can have it. And then he said, then she shall get the baby because she does not want it to be cut in half.
Oh my gosh. I did not know that Bible
Evidently,
story.
you don't read enough of the Bible.
I read the New Testament, not so much the Old Testament. Okay. Do you want to go first? I'll go first.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
What?
You go first.
Okay. I'm going to have a hard time with this, and here's why. I find that the guys are not, like...
We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, I don't think there are any that are great. I mean, great husband material.
I was not, I was not a fan of Brian from Rachel's season, but even Brian, I could kind of feel that, like, he was sending out some vibes that were like,
he was husband material.
I get it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I mean,
at the very least, he was like hot boyfriend material.
There were at least, in Rachel's season, there were at least 4 or 5 guys that were like bona fide serious relationship / husband material. This one, gosh, I'm having such a hard time like figuring out like who would be husband material. So I'm gonna have to pick Garrett. Like I really am.
Garrett, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, Blake, I like him, but I don't like. We talked about this. I don't like his face.
Don't like his face either.
I don't think I could kiss that face every day.
Blake, if you're listening, which
sorry,
I hope
Blake.
you're
Not a
very
bad-looking
sweet.
guy.
You're not a bad-looking guy. Mom and I just aren't particularly into the squareness of the jaw and the flatness of the face.
You know what's so funny? You know who would be my second pick, though?
Yes.
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah, no, okay, kind of fair. I was gonna say Jordan is my runner-up too, because here's the thing. I would marry
Jordan. He's fun. The thing is, like,
I never thought I'd say that.
Even though he's egocentric, like, I think he'd be a really fun guy to be with.
I know. I totally agree. Not to mention the fact that, like I get it. The whole season he's talking about like how great he is, but he's also like. You can tell it's kind of a front, and while he doesn't have much substance to him, at the very least he'd be entertaining to hang out with. Yes. And he seems like he's got some stories to tell, and he would be.
And he really is like a puppy.
A little, yeah,
he's a little bit. Got those innocent eyes, like those puppy eyes.
Right, and like he'd be a very like spontaneous and interesting person to marry. Where like you'd come home and he'd be like holding your dinner naked in an apron or something, and be like. all right, fine, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It would be life full of surprises with Jordan. I mean, Garrett, I just think because he seems the most serious of them all as far as, like, husband material serious.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, he seems like a sweet person. He seems like he'd be a very good dad. So I can't fault you for that.
So I don't know. See, now I'm very conflicted between Garrett and Jordan. Like,
that's fine. Both good answers. You only have one ring though.
Man,
lock in your answer.
Okay. Oh gosh, I don't know. Okay, I think I'd pick Jordan.
Okay. That's interesting. After we talked it over a little bit.
I would pick Jordan.
Are you just saying it to be interesting, or are you saying
No, I'm saying it because I tend to be attracted to guys that are like Jordan.
Ugh, God, yeah, wow.
Don't I? The more beautiful guy, like, for the most recent pick. The most beautiful,
the more crappy, shallow. Whatever.
Fun, goofy.
We're not going into this on the show.
Right, but fun and goofy. Fun and a little goofy, quirky. Yes. Come on.
So my pick. Here's my pick. What's the name of the boy that was on the lumberjack date that won?
John.
Yes. I thought John was a cutie patootie. I liked John a lot. I think I'd marry John. He has very soft features. He seems like he's very nice. He seems like he tries very hard, as we saw during the lumberjack date. I'm gonna lock in on John.
I think John is probably gonna last a long time.
I think he is as well.
I think he's maybe like one of those Matt type dudes.
Yeah, where like he's gonna be in the background, but he's gonna go weirdly far.
Like she's gonna really, really, really like him.
I don't know. When he gets more time, I feel like he's gonna stand out.
I think so too. Again, Jason, I'm not so sure, but like John, probably. I think you're right. I think you're spot on that he's probably good husband material.
Yep. So yeah, that was our segment. Hey, why don't you post a comment on our YouTube video or send us a tweet using hashtag on a cloud or on a cloud podcast?
On a cloud. Yeah, you keep forgetting.
Well, that's okay. Podcast. On a cloud podcast is our handle. What's our hashtag?
On a cloud.
Okay, use the hashtag on a cloud or tweet us at
on a cloud podcast.
Or send us an email at onacloudpodcast and tell us who your pick would be.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your little husband choices that you've got.
And why? Why would you marry that guy?
Why? Yeah, I'd love to hear why. Because why would you marry Jordan?
Because he's beautiful.
Oh. Anyways,
He would do like a striptease for me. And that would just make it interesting.
It would. No, that's what I was saying.
Or like with the apron. You know what it reminds me of? Okay, remember in Scrubs, Elliot's boyfriend, the one that she was engaged to?
Yes. Keith? Yeah, Keith.
And so, like, Jordan reminds me of Keith. Like, you know, I told you that in one of the episodes, he comes out wearing a pink apron with a tray of cookies.
Yeah.
And like he's like not afraid of his manhood to like act goofy and like funny. Well, I think Jordan's like that.
I think we're also both kind of like Becca in a way where we don't need the most masculine dudes in the world. Right. It's kind of
like the pretty boy who's like interesting, who dresses well. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, segment over. So we're going to get back to the drama where we cut to Wills's
my gosh. Well, even before this, Becca is just like, it's like doom and gloom.
Yeah.
She wakes up in Utah with the snow covering her face, and they have all these shots of her with like this deadpan face, like, I'm so disappointed.
They catch her waking up in the morning, and they're
depressed. I don't want to get out of bed in the morning.
They wake her up, and they're like, Becca, don't do your hair. And she's like, okay.
Like, her hair's like flat against her face, and
they start filming her.
She looks so angry, and I can't believe what just happened to me. I'm like, okay, one guy was kind of a creep.
Yeah, but at the same, like, I can also see why her confidence would be shaken, because, like, what if that's Garrett's goal and Garrett is just hanging out with her to win the show and not so much to be with her forever?
That's not Garrett.
I know, and that's kind of I'm playing devil's advocate here, because it's not only not Garrett, it's like
it's not like half the boys. Tell. Like half the boys are there to get their 15 minutes of fame, and some of them are there just to be clowns, and some of them are there just because. But, like, the other half, I would say, like, the other half... It's usually a pretty distinct line. Yeah, I mean, I think the other half are definitely there because they're interested in a really good relationship like Becca is. Yeah. And they kind of think it's cool. It's a cool process.
No, sure. A cool journey, if you will.
Journey.
So they cut to Becca on a mountain, and we get 2 minutes of uncut Becca crying, which I think is, like... Filming Becca crying and nothing else happening is like the show's MO, basically. They really, really like watching Becca cry. Oh my gosh. It is unpleasant, and thankfully Wills comes by to stop that fiasco,
Oh
and she
my
kind of wipes off
gosh.
her face, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Wills.
I'm so happy to see you. You
I'm
make me
excited
feel
for today."
better. The beginning of the date, even though it's really, really good, I mean, because of that cut before, I kind of felt like the first couple of minutes I was watching her date with Wills, I was like all depressed.
Yeah.
I was all like sad. I'm like, oh, this might not go well.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, Wills is like the most grounded, nice,
Absolutely,
emotionally healthy person
that
exists in that house.
Which is really funny because I talked about who's the grocery store guy whose name I absolutely forgot by now.
I don't know, but Joseph, I think.
Yeah.
Joe?
So yeah, I think that's right. So I said I pitched him at the beginning as kind of an everyman, but I feel like Wills is the real everyman because besides wearing very nice suits, he is just like, he seems like a friend that you'd make that would just like stick with you, and you could call him and you could kind of tell him about your problems.
He seems like a gay friend.
Will you stop calling him gay?
No, like,
what's wrong with you?
It just feels like he's my gay friend. Like, I don't know.
On a show where he fully intends to marry a woman, like, I feel like it'd be a hard sell.
You never know.
Well,
But
we'll see in a bit.
I don't know.
Anyways,
I don't think Wills is gonna win.
maybe not.
I don't
Which
even
we
think
talked
he's going
about
to
this. We
hometowns.
talked about this during the date, where like you'd sometimes get contestants that feel like they're a really, really good friend to the batch, but not necessarily a life mate for the batch.
Becca is pleasantly surprised by Wills, and she says she's surprised by him every single time. And I think she's surprised. She said she's kind of surprised about her feelings for Will.
Yeah, no, she is, and like you can tell that there's definitely at least a spark between them, because like, you know, when they're on the snowmobiles, they do a little camp and they're just snuggling a little bit.
Yeah, it's cute.
No, it's very nice. And he does manage to cheer Becca up by the end of the episode, which does win you a lot of points on the show in general.
They have dinner together.
They have dinner together. They do some smooching afterwards.
Yeah, she gives him a rose.
She gets a lot of mustache in those kisses.
Oh yeah, that's right.
An almost untenable amount of mustache.
It's like,
in
well,
those
and
kisses.
then plus it's not a full mustache. It's kind of like stubble mustache.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I
she
felt
just
that
sucks
too.
it in. But thankfully she stopped crying, so no more. Hey, Bachelor, look at me in the eyes. No more uncircumcised footage of Becca crying, please. I've seen enough to last me a lifetime.
Exactly. We want to see the happy times, and we want to see her getting productive in her
I get it.
men's selection.
It's an emotional process, but just edit. You're paying $500,000 for your editors. Use them. We edit this podcast. Every time I cry when Mom makes fun of me for choosing not Jordan, I cut it out.
So at the end, we do not get a cocktail party because Chris Harrison comes on and says,
Becca knows.
Becca's made her choice.
Yeah.
There will be no cocktail party. And of course, like, the boys get so upset every time this happens. They're just like, no.
They do, but he's like, the weaker shall die, the strong ones shall survive. But anyways, so who, I think I can remember who gets cut off the top of my head, actually. I know the Harlem Globetrotter gets cut.
Yeah,
that is Kristan.
Yep. And then Tracksuit Boy gets cut.
Oh. Is he wearing a tracksuit in the second rose? No, okay.
He's not.
Apparently he did not want to bear his true self to Becca anymore after what happened.
But he did not get chosen.
Nope,
so there you go. We are left with 12 boys.
We are.
We have no idea what's going to happen next week.
Well, we kind of do. So we get a promo.
Yeah, that's what we do.
We get a promo, and we see 2-on-1 dates are always weird because I feel like all the 2-on-1s that have happened so far have taken place in wide open canyons. Oh, no, wait. Crystal's didn't. Crystal's took place in Paris.
Yes.
But I do remember Kenny and Lee's date where, like, it was in the wilderness.
Exactly.
When they had a little picnic together, and it was just vitriol filled.
It was so crazy.
So we do get a little preview of the 2-on-1 between David and Jordan and Becca. And as we mentioned before, 2-on-1s are like one contestant always gets cut, the other always gets a rose.
Yeah.
Or they both get cut.
Right.
But someone leaves. They always do this cut where if a 2-on-1 ends, where they leave the person behind and they make it look like they're gonna die to the elements. So okay.
And the couple goes off into the sunset.
Yes. And they stare off longingly as, like, a predator missile comes down to destroy them.
Like when Rachel went off with, who did she go off with? Kenny.
Yeah.
They were in a helicopter, and they
And
literally
pulled
left
off,
into a helicopter.
and
like,
Lee was
left
standing
Lee.
there by a creek watching them pull away, like getting out his...
Like, now you're going to live there for the rest of your life,
sharpening
Lee.
his shiv and getting ready for the next season of Survivor. I promise you, they're gonna do like vultures circling around David as he watches Jordan and Becca pull off, and he's gonna, like, the camera's gonna pull his face in and go, "The coyotes, they come for me. Night will soon fall."
And now that he's, like, got a bloody eye, it's like, it'll be like the sharks. The sharks can smell the blood. The coyotes can smell the blood.
Yeah, someone's gonna actually die next.
I don't know. Like, if Jordan doesn't make it through,
Yep. So
I just might have to give him a call.
Don't. God, that was me and Becca last. I was very infatuated with Becca. Not our Becca, but younger Becca.
Yes. That's too funny.
Yeah, no. She's a keeper, and
she's cute.
Jordan is as well.
Yeah.
So, anyways, drama-filled episode.
Wouldn't
but
it be funny on BIP if there was Becca Ka and Jordan?
Oh
on
my
the same
God.
season?
That would be insane. Oh man, that'd be a lot for me to handle.
Yeah.
He'd go up to me and be like, "So I'm an alpha," and you might not know what that means. He said that early in the season. It sucked.
Did
Anyways,
he?
yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, no, that was a good episode though.
Yeah,
I feel like I feel like this has been a very entertaining and drama filled, but light drama. It's the kind of drama I like, and I can actually get behind.
It's not like terribly uncomfortable drama.
No, yeah, I think it's all very handleable, and I like that the drama arcs are very short this season too. Like the Lincoln drama with the photograph in the pool. One episode, one and done, over.
Yeah.
No conflict afterwards.
Exactly.
I love that. Please make the arcs all that long. I cannot watch Bibiana for 3 episodes anymore. I'll die.
Exactly. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah,
and
I really appreciate
tune
it.
in next week. Please leave your comments below, and we look forward to being with you again next week.
Yup. Listeners, will you marry me?
No, listeners, marry me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.